Late last night, the manhunt ended for the suspect accused of murdering State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark, State Senator John Hoffman and his wife, Yvette, who were also shot and are still recovering in the hospital. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz spoke out about this yesterday. Take a look.
This cannot be the norm. It cannot be the way that we deal with our political differences. Now's the time for us to recommit to the core values of this country. And each and every one of us can do it. Talk to a neighbor rather than arguing. Debate an issue. Shake hands. Find common ground. It's not about hatred. It's not about mean tweets. It's not about demeaning someone. It's leading with grace and compassion and vision and compromise and decency. That was taken from us in Minnesota with the murder of Speaker Hortman.
Now, people keep saying, is this going to be a wake-up call? But when you start thinking about Paul Pelosi, you start thinking about all of the people, all of the folks who have been in the midst of this, what is happening? Is it's more than just being polite. It's more than hatred. There is something happening here that is really kind of freaky that I don't think I remember seeing before.
It's a wake-up call. I feel like America keeps, or some folks in America keep pressing the snooze button.
Yeah.
Because it's Gabby Giffords, it's Steve Scalise, it's Paul Pelosi. Look, you know, one of the things I'm most afraid of is that we become numb to this, the way that it feels we've become numb to school shootings, where, you know, it's just like expected that that happens in America. Oh, that's just, you know, living in America. And we can't do that. But one of the things that I think we must demand is that our elected leaders who have the biggest bully pulpits, like we saw the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, but that also includes Donald Trump, and I'm going to say his name, because what we saw last week was a terrible escalation of political threats. We saw him talk about detaining and arresting Gavin Newsom for the crime of having been elected. We saw the Speaker of the House talk about tar and feathering Gavin Newsom for the crime of being elected. And we saw federal officials make Alex Padilla, a sitting U.S. Senator, the senior senator from California, kneel and then detain him and handcuff him because he wanted to ask questions. Let me just say, I know Alex Padilla. He is the child of immigrants. His father was a short order cook. His mother cleaned houses for a living. They came from Mexico in the 60s. He put himself, Alex Padilla, through MIT. He is the less performative elected official I know. He is serious, he is deliberate, he feels authentically, he is soft-spoken. He wasn't there to create a media moment. He was there representing his constituents and the Latinos and people in his community that are being dragged through the streets, the babies that are being taken away from mothers, the U.S. citizen children that are being left alone in their homes. That's who he was there representing because he comes from those people, and it is upon him to do his job.
You say there's something happening here. It's like a slow dehumanization of the other, whatever that other is to someone. And in this instance, it's a political division. And I think people need to check in with themselves. When they hear someone is attacked in their house, if their first response is not feeling gutted and heartbroken without any identifiers, I don't need to know anything. If that was not your first response, you're part of the problem. And elected officials, speaking of them, you've got Mike Lee out of Utah, who is either mocking what happened here when he tweets things like, this is what happens when Marxists don't get their way, or nightmare on Wall Street. This was within hours of the loss of life and the brutal attack in these people's homes. In any other job, you would be fired instantly. I don't know what is wrong with our government that someone is not immediately removed or punished. And what I would say is right now, if the HR of our government does not solve this problem, the people better be watching. This man is back up. It's a minute. It's like 2028. But being on the ground right now and coordinating how you replace people like this that can speak that way about other Americans.
Well, you do it by voting, right? You do it by voting during the midterms.
We are the HR of America.
We are the HR of America. But I will say this, Whoopi, to your question. there is this normalization of political violence, and it's been happening since about 2016. In 2024, Chapman University, there was a study that suggests that a possible cause for this rise in targeted violence against politicians is this declining level of confidence in our most important social institutions and the growing political divisions. And what was really disheartening to me, 1 in 5 adults believe Americans have to resort to violence to get their country back on track. A Washington Post poll found that 1 in 3 Americans say they believe violence against the government is justified. And so when that is starting to happen, it's not only just a slide to fascism, it's not just a slide to authoritarianism, it's an end of democracy and how we do things. And so I don't know if it's time to wake up, because I think it's just happening. It's
Well,
going
I
to
think
continue happening.
the question that we always have after an act of political violence, whether it's the attempts on Donald Trump's life, the attempts on Governor Shapiro's life, these lawmakers and their spouses in Minnesota, we say, well, is the rhetoric contributing to it? And of course the rhetoric is, but to Sarah's point, we have to get to the heart of it, because there is this reaction when something happens, and if your first thought is, ooh, let me make sure he wasn't wearing my jersey, whoever the perpetrator was. I want to make sure he wasn't on my political side. That you care more about that than the 2 children who were left behind, who lost both of their parents in Minnesota this weekend, the Hortman's kids. There is something wrong at the heart. And I will say this, deep political polarization in this country is dangerous. I never thought I would live through this level of political violence that we have. And we all have a duty. How we talk about people, if we talk about people we politically disagree with, like they're our enemy, like they're less worthy of being here, like they're stupider than us, like we hate them and we despise them, we are adding to that. We have a duty to try to see people's humanity. And by the way, I'm trying to hold myself accountable to this. Rather than go on Twitter and rage tweet to my echo chamber of people who agree with me, I'm going to try to talk to people who see the world a little different than me, try to see their humanity, try to change their heart and mind toward what I agree by actually engaging them and talking to them like the human beings who are worthy of having a voice. Because when we treat people like they're enemies, this is what happens.
Well, I'm not going to pull my punches here. Last week, when that tar and feather, you know,
That was
it's
Speaker
like,
Mike Johnson, right?
what are you doing? You know, you always say, oh, we got to come down on the rhetoric, stop doing it, and then you don't. So I'm putting this in your hands. I'm putting this in the hands of the people who are supposed to be representing us. If you're not going to represent us, then don't run for office, because this is not the way to do it. And to what you said, if your first response is not, what the hell is going on, you should not be running for anything.
Did Mike Lee take that tweet down?
No, they're up.
No, it's up.
Pinned. It's pinned. He's proud
Is
of
it really?
But you know what? This pinning. No. This is not the way. Listen, we are waiting to get all the information about the shooter. They say he was very upset about abortion. This was a hell of a way to deal with that. You took a life.
Yeah.
2 lives.
Two
Two lives.
Yeah.
And then you tried to take 4 lives because you shot the other folks. How are you justifying this? What are you thinking? We as a nation need to think before we act. We need to think before we act. And, you know, this is on us as well. It is up to us to change how this is working. That's what the votes are for.
Vote them out.